All right. So before we get into Blair White herself, I want to discuss my biggest problem with Blair White. My biggest problem is that she is a trans medicalist who makes content that panders to conservatives and transphobes. Most of you in chat already know this. This shouldn't be any surprise to you. But before, I'm not going to talk specifically about I'm not going to talk specifically about Blair White here. I'm going to talk about the way that she goes about looking at being transgender. All right? God, I got the streamer nose itch already. Only 25 minutes into the stream and my nose is itching like a motherfucker. Transmedicalism. You've heard of it. You hate it. Probably. Because, it's very exclusionary of non-binary people. For those of you that don't know, transmedicalism is the idea, the wrong idea, by the way, that to be transgender and be valid, you have to have diagnosable gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder in which someone experiences extreme distress because of they aren't able to identify or present as the gender that they truly are. So I understand why some trans people are transmedicalist and why some of them even argue from a transmedicalist standpoint. Because when you're arguing with a transphobe, you have to admit, and I even fall into this trap sometimes, it's so much easier to bread pill someone on transgenderism from a transmedicalist perspective, right? There's two ways to explain transgenderism to somebody. You can explain it and be like, this is the right way to do it, by the way, or the most correct way to do it, by the way. Gender is a social construct. It has everything to do with how you dress, how you act, and present yourself and your identity and stuff like that. But the instant you say gender is a social construct to somebody, they're going to shut down. They're going to stop listening. Gender is a social construct is a trigger sentence for them. So you can't say that. And you can't even allude to that when you're arguing with a transphobe. However, if you're arguing with a transphobe or just someone who doesn't understand transgenderism or anything like that, and you say, hey, there is... Yeah, the two genders meme too, I know. However, if you can say, hey, there is a diagnosable, professionally recognized mental condition called gender dysphoria, where if you have it, you're scientifically transgender. The scientific community agrees with this. If you can argue that, you're going to have a much easier time because it's so easy. It's so easy to point at the DSM-5 and every single medical publication that is well respected that there is and to say, hey, look, gender dysphoria exists. Binary trans people are valid scientifically, and transitioning is a well-refined medical procedure, social and medical procedure, that has been perfected over the last 60 years, if not more, at least in America and Western society. It's way easier. It's so much easier. That's why with rags, when I was debating rags, I started by explaining to him gender dysphoria. And people get mad at me for this when I'm debating transphobes, when I start explaining gender dysphoria and stuff, because admittedly, there's a lot of trans people who don't have gender dysphoria. Believe it or not, you don't have to have gender dysphoria to be trans. And this is by definition. To be transgender, by definition, you identify as a gender different from that which you were assigned at birth. And by assigned at birth, I mean the doctor pulled you out and looked at you, and if you had a wiener, they said you're a boy, and if you had a Virginia, they said you are a girl. And then you were raised as such, most likely. That's what it means when you are assigned a gender at birth. However, gender dysphoria means you realize at some age, usually pretty young, that, hey, I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy, I'm someone else, I'm something else. This includes gender identities besides that which are in the binary, because gender is a spectrum. I mean, gender, if it's socially constructed, then depending on what group you're in, what social space you're in, if that social space recognizes more than two genders, millions even, then it's real. It's just like language, right? It's language. We make up new words all the time. As a matter of fact, we make up new phrases all the time. I learned about sugar walls today. Do you know what sugar walls is, chat? Hypers, if you know what sugar walls means. I learned about it today from Urban Dictionary, and I find it quite amusing. Not going to explain it. You guys can look it up yourself, but it's pretty fucking funny. Yeah. Wait, do you guys actually want me to explain what sugar walls is? It's basically when a girl has a very sweet vagina. That's basically the meme. You can look it up on Urban Dictionary. I was watching Delor's stream. Fuck, am I allowed to mention him? He's banned on Twitch. I was watching his stream, and somebody donated with voice to text and said, Delor can taste my sugar walls. And I was like, what the fuck? And I Googled it, and that's what I found out. So yes, we invent new language all the time. Okay? So, new genders? Not really that out here. Not really that out there, okay? Voice to text. God damn it, Lil Mateus, I am a boomer. But, listen, I understand why some trans people argue from trans medicalist perspective, but it's still not correct.